Hey guys, it's Derry here with day 11 and day 12 of the community Vlogmas. Alright, here we go. Question number 11, which was yesterday, which is 2 turning points in my life or spiritual journey or whatever. The death of my mother in 2005. And my divorce from my first husband in 2009. Easy, hands down. My mother's death was literally my first awakening of I am finally free to be who Derry Carpenter really wants to be, or who Derry is, who Derry really wants to be. I'm no longer going to be known as Katie's daughter. I'm no longer going to be known as, oh, you're their daughter. You're Kate and Russ's daughter. And I'm not going to have that little negative voice in my head anymore. And I'm no longer going to be an inconvenience to anybody. You know, I knew my mom loved me, but I didn't find out until after she died, because for she died when I was 36. I'm 48 now. I grew up with being told I was an inconvenience. I grew up being told that I was stupid. I grew up being told that I was a waste. You know, and I'm the only surviving one of 7 children. Of 6 pregnancies and 7 children. I'm the only surviving child. So for that to go down really was very difficult on me. And I was ready to finally be who I wanted to be and who I was glimpsing. You know, because, and I knew my mom loved me in her own way. In a weird roundabout way, I knew the woman loved me. But yeah, that was my first step of freedom, of really being a grown-up in my own right. Yes, I was a wife. Yes, I was a mother. But I always had mom hanging over me going, you're not doing it right. Not was her favorite word. No, not, negative was my mother's vocabulary when it came to me. I would have never been good enough in her eyes. But yeah, that was one turning point, and then the divorce from my first husband, who was a massive control freak. And those were the 11 years that I was married to him, I literally were my years of study. I was still a witch. I was, you know, I just didn't practice because he was a Catholic. And that was taboo. You know, he knew what I was, but he didn't talk about it. He didn't want to talk about it. He didn't want to acknowledge it. So those were my years of study, was when I was with him. And it finally just got to a point when my son was about 5 and he was starting kindergarten, and I just woke up one day and I was like, you know what? We have done nothing but fight from the time this child was conceived. And I'm like, I don't want to do that to him anymore. I don't want him to see that this is what marriage is about. You know, and I wasn't allowed to do anything. I wasn't allowed to go anywhere. I had to work and go to school. I was working full-time, going to school full-time, pretty much being a single parent because my ex-husband had 4 jobs. You know, and I couldn't do it. I don't deserve this. This is not who I am. And that was my second step into fully becoming Derry. And I was like, okay, let's do this. And he would say to me, well, what are you going to do? Move home with Daddy? Yeah. And I wasn't moving home to Daddy, quote unquote. I was moving home to my support system. Because we got married in 1998. And I moved the next day. I moved 550 miles away from everything I had ever known, everyone that I had ever known, and I'd never moved away from home. I'd been in my hometown for 28 years. And then, getting married in and of itself is big enough, but then to move the very next day, 550 miles away from everything you've ever known, everyone you've ever loved, and to sit in an apartment for 6 months while my husband was working 4 jobs, and he had this whole life that I was not allowed to be introduced to any of his friends. I didn't drive, so I couldn't go anywhere. I didn't have a job. I didn't have friends of my own. I sat in our apartment for 6 months and cried because all I wanted to do was go home. So 11 years later when he was like, what are you going to do? Damn right I'm moving home. Damn right, without question. And at the time, my son was 5. He was already established in kindergarten. I literally walked out the door with the clothes on my back. And I couldn't take care of myself at that point. And I was moving home with my dad, who was an alcoholic and had some health issues of his own. So I was doing what I thought was best for my now 16-year-old when he was 5. He was already established in school. Mark had all the money. Mark had 4 jobs. Mark had all the money. Mark cut it down. By the time we were divorcing, he had 2 jobs. He had a weekend job, and then he had the school job because he was a school teacher. He gave up the tutoring jobs and this job and that job. And the nice thing was that the greenhouse that he worked at, he could take our son with him on the weekends. So I left Ethan with him because I didn't want to. I couldn't take care of myself. There was no way, and I was going home to my dad, and I couldn't take care of Ethan. So why? And that is still to this day one of the biggest regrets I've probably ever had. But you know what? My kid is spectacular. He's 16. He's a genius. I'm not at all ashamed. Question number 12 is, what was the most embarrassing moment I've ever had? I've had some doozies. I'm not gonna lie. I've had some doozies. My most embarrassing witchy moment, I guess it was a pagan moment. I was in a pagan hand fasting. I was in a pagan wedding. And we were doing it at a reenactment, at a medieval reenactment. And I was one of the bridesmaids. And I slipped in the middle of the wedding. I slipped into the pond. My ankle got twisted, and I fell into the pond. So that was pretty embarrassing in the middle of a wedding. My second one was at the North Carolina Ren Fair, and Ethan was a newborn. It was the very first time Ethan was born in May, and I had taken him to the Ren Fair. I think he was 3 months old, and I was in costume, and I forgot to bring clothes with me, and he had a massive explosion out of both ends, and I had baby poop all down me, I had baby puke all down me, and I had no clothes. I had no extra clothes to wear. I had my garb on. I had my medieval garb on, and that was pretty nasty. But those are 2 of my most embarrassing moments, so... But I hope this helped, and everybody have a great day, and I'm going to go back to crafting, because I have the last minute Yule orders and stuff to get out. I'm making in the midst of crystal grids, and candles, and paintings, and yippee skippy. So everybody have a great day. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.